Good morning and welcome to the question-answer series on the path of spiritual evolution. We have been discussing the topic of Atman, that is self-inquiry. In the previous episode, we learned about the meaning of Atman. We discussed that Atman occurs when the mind is emptied of all thoughts that revolve around the mundane world. We discussed that to gain true understanding of Atman, we must slowly draw our mind back from worldly thoughts, and that the absence of these thoughts will automatically enable focusing on self-realization. We briefly talked about the method to do Atmachintan through Shravan, Manan and Nididhyas, that is, gaining proper knowledge and understanding, then self-reflection, self-questioning and self-analysis on this knowledge, and then contemplating on these thoughts to experience the self. This method has been presented in the Vedanta philosophy, that is, of Shravan, Manan, Nididhyas and Sakshatkar. Now, Shravan does not mean only listening, Manan does not mean only memorizing, and Nididhyas does not mean only contemplation or meditation on the subject. These are only the literal definitions of these words. However, the true meaning is much deeper than these literal meanings. In these videos, we are merely presenting this knowledge based on our own study, research and experience on various scriptures and other knowledge over the past 12 years. I will present my interpretation of the methods found through knowledge, which I have altered slightly based on my own understanding and how it fits in with my own personal experience. So, to begin, we identified that the one constant problem we face in self-inquiry is the constant and unending flow of thoughts that revolve around worldly objects and desires. These thoughts rising from our personal desires and emotions. Where do these problems come from? They come from our minds, that is, from our mind, intellect and eye sense, man, buddhi and ahankar. The combination of these lead to constant thoughts. Therefore, if the problem arises from the mind, then the solution itself can only be found in the mind. The mind is the tool that will also help us overcome this problem, and we must use it as such. We make use of our mind and the thoughts it generates to focus on calming the mind, dissolving the thoughts, and slowly letting go of the mind as we reach self-realization. Like a pole vaulter lets go of his pole at the crest of the jump, we must let go of all our thoughts and by extension our mind to gain self-realization in the process of Atmachintan. In the scriptures, there is a clever analogy that explains this dilemma better. Suppose you are walking through the forest barefooted with no belongings. A thorn pierces your foot and you need to draw it out. There is no solution except to get a larger thorn and use this large thorn to dig out the smaller thorn from your foot and then discard both thorns altogether. In the same way, we must use our mind as a tool to solve the problem that has been generated by our mind. So, knowing this, let us go back to the three-step method of Shravan, Manan and Nididhyas. Shravan means to learn and understand all the Atma, self-related knowledge found in the scriptures, and build faith in these teachings. This faith is extremely important to cultivate for later steps, especially since this is an unknown area we are exploring. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says that that which is untrue has no reality or permanency, and that which is true is permanently real and cannot be unavailable. Therefore, if we believe the Atma to be true, then we must also believe that it is permanent and realizable. It is simply our misfortune that we are unable to perceive it easily and clearly. In fact, all that we can see and perceive currently, such as the mind, body, and worldly items, they are all made up from Prakriti, which is changeable and not permanent. For example, our bodies undergo change every day on a cellular level, and our minds change every moment. Therefore, returning to the method of Atmachintan, we must first do Shravan of the scriptural knowledge of the Atma. Simply reading, listening and learning this information is not enough, as it is still indirect knowledge. This is because we have gained this knowledge from an external source. Now, we must make this indirect knowledge direct. That is, we must make it available to us permanently. Summarizing Shravan, Shravan means to gain a clear, complete and comprehensive understanding of the words from the scriptures. Then we have to summarize it and develop faith in it because we are in an unknown area. We have to have this faith in the scriptural words. So, how do we build this faith in the Shravan we have just done? This is done by doing Manan. There are multiple layers to Manan. We must use our logic and smartness to do this. We have to use our critical thinking ability, that is our smartness, to reflect on the knowledge gained during Manan. However, for someone to use logic and smartness, then they must be logical and smart. This logic and smartness comes from experience. But how do we gain that experience leading to logic and smartness? We must use our intellect and our reasoning power. We use reasoning to convert the knowledge gained during Shravan to make it more subtle and increase our wisdom, and imbibe the knowledge deeper within ourselves. This will then change our value system, which in turn will change the way we perceive the world and the thoughts that arise from the interactions we have with the world. So, it is important to apply reasoning and critical thinking to the knowledge gained during Shravan, that is, doing Manan. We do this by reflecting on our daily experiences and questioning ourselves based on the knowledge we have gained from the Shastras. Once we do self-reflection, eventually this will lead to self-conviction and in turn lead to self-realization. Manan can be broken down into two smaller parts, Manthan and Chintan. Manthan means self-reflection and self-questioning, and Chintan means self-analysis on the self-questioning. Manthan is self-questioning. We have to take our daily experience as reference and then question that experience. How do we do that? For example, we have learnt through the Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 slok 16, which states that what is true is always present and permanent. If this is the case, then my Atma is true. Then why can I not experience its permanency and presence? How can I recognize my Atma? Then we must do Chintan, that is self-analysis. In this, we again do self-questioning. We must use all our vrittis, that is our thoughts, to do this self-questioning. We use one of our thoughts and make it the knower. We make another thought the judge, who will ask the questions. And thirdly, once we begin the self-questioning, a third thought will act as a witness. Thus, the judge questions the knower, and the witness provides confirmation of the answers generated by ourselves. For example, we ask ourselves, that is, the judge asks the knower, what was the first experience of waking up early in the morning? What was the first feeling I got upon waking up? At this point, the judge has asked the knower the question, and the witness will present to give the answer, that during deep sleep, I had no perception of anything. Then, when I woke up, I first had the sensation of existence, the sensation that I exist. I was not aware of my body, or of time, or of the bed, or of the room, or of anything else. Only that I exist. Then, slowly, as the mind became active, it realized the existence of the body, and then all the other sensations of time, darkness or light, sounds, spatial awareness, etc. And this is how our awareness of space, time, and causality awakens. Thus, we perform Manan in this method. We perform Manthan, self-questioning, and Chintan, self-analysis, based on the knowledge of the Atma gained during Shravan and comparing it with our daily experiences. Next, we need to engage in Nididhyas. This is the step of self-conviction. For example, the realization and experience of I exist, based on the question we asked ourselves during Manan. We need to convince ourselves of this realization and feeling. How do we do this? For this, we must perform contemplation. We have to try and bring about that feeling of I exist once again. We can do this by meditating or trying to elongate that sensation in the early stages of waking. Basically, we need to try and remain in that sensation of I exist for longer. In this way, if we perform nididhyas, our true self is gradually revealed. Every time we are able to achieve this state of self-realization, we experience the same feelings, as this self-realization is true knowledge that is constant and unchanging. However, this process is a gradual achievement. The more we try and achieve this self-realization state, the easier it gets, and the longer we will be able to remain in this state. The more we achieve this state, the more ingrained it gets into our habitual patterns, and soon we dwell in this state permanently, eradicating all our thoughts of worldly objects and desires. Once we are able to achieve this state permanently, then we are said to be sthit prajna, the highest state.